The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by our proud sponsors, Rams On Demand, Seat Giant, Throwback Joe, and now our new sponsor, Kayvon Webster's new LA food truck, Vibe 305, from South Beach to Sunset. Hashtag catch a vibe. For more information, check out vibe305.com today. Now enjoy the show.
35-30, Robert Woods, first down 20, 10-5, touchdown, LA! No, it's Goff who keeps it, and Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there and comes away with his third sack of the afternoon. Not immediately in sack. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. Todd Gurley, 20, 10, Gurley for MVP, touchdown LA! And he gets gobbled up. Savage has to eat it as Michael Brockers picks up the sack.
It's Pitts! Nicole Roby coming!
He's decked by Eden Khan.
Touchdown! Brandon Cooks! Incredible!
For the first time since 2003, the Rams are NFC West champions.
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. It's episode 123, and it's following a huge win for the Rams. They are now 3-0 for the first time since 2001. They were also 2-0 for the first time since 2001. The last time they were 3-0, they went to the Super Bowl. And I am joined here by Joe Curley to really break everything down and talk about what was kind of a huge game for those doubters out there. And they were a fairly limited amount of doubters, Joe, but they were still out there, and the Rams beat a really good team today.
Oh, man, strong men hate the Los Angeles Rams, and they hate Jared Goff. Let me tell you, all those people calling him a system quarterback really got it today. That was a pretty impressive performance by the offense, and a good job by the defense to kind of flex their depth a little bit. And, I do think they're probably the deepest secondary in the league. Certainly they take a step down with those potential injuries, but you can win football games. I think they only gave up 33 yards passing to Phillip Rivers when both Troy Hill and Sam Shields were on the field. So, some teams would lose that type of talent and maybe turtle, maybe suffer give up the lead. But Rams were able to close strong, and really, Jared Goff doing some big things when everybody around him's asking questions about him, and you gotta like the way the guy, third-year player, continues to show improvement.
I totally agree with that. Jared Goff had one of his best games of his career, I thought. He really made only one bad throw. He made a really good decision where I thought he had a guy open. He had Gurley on the shallow cross in the red zone. Made a really good decision to live to play another down by throwing it away. And then the next play, he tries to force it into Gerald Everett, where I'll be honest with you, he has Gerald Everett if he just, lobs it over. I'm surprised this team hasn't gone with any, red zone, end zone fades. I feel like they have a lot of size to be able to do that with Josh Reynolds, Gerald, and Tyler. But regardless, I was really impressed with Jared Goff. And, he always is, I feel like he's always comfortable in the pocket. I mean, not his rookie year, but ever since then, he's really looked comfortable in the pocket. I thought today was a nice showing for the Rams, albeit Joey Bosa was out. Melvin Ingram was pretty much held in check, I felt anyway. There was only one sack generated on Jared Goff, and when you give Goff, that much time to be able to, make his reads and go down the field to, tons of different weapons, you're going to have a long day. And really what it came down to is, the reason this game was as close as it ended up being, two red zone turnovers really made this game, a game. At one point, it looked like, well, the Rams really can't stop the Chargers, and the Chargers can't really stop the Rams. So it looked like it was going in that direction of a shootout, but the Rams were able to get a couple stops, and obviously they ended up winning 35-23. What were your overall thoughts, Joe? I mean, we talk a little bit about Goff, but there are plenty other guys on this roster that I thought had a good game today or stood out in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, without just on first glance, without having gone back and watched the film yet, I thought, like you mentioned, the offensive line really kept Jared clean. He said he felt like he only got hit once on the interception. That really Jared had a near perfect game. The interception was really one of his only few mistakes. He mentioned in the post game that he felt like even though it was a pick, it probably wasn't a bad decision. He thought that he had a shot to make the pass. He just kind of left it. Like you said, if he could put a little more air on it, maybe he's able to complete it and throw it over Derwin James. But so he wasn't even really faulting himself for the decision. It was more of a lack of execution on the throw. Other parts, I think the offense continues to rev, but you still get the sense that they're not on all cylinders yet. The offensive line probably played the best out of any of the groups. I think the three receivers really played well in spots. And then, Gurley obviously gets a demerit for the fumble on the first drive. But besides that, he really made plays. The matchup of the Rams and Chargers really is, you got to look at through the lens of the running backs. You've got, two of the best running backs in the NFL, and I thought both really played. Both were themselves really, and Gurley probably just edged Gordon in terms of production. And defensively, the interesting thing is since Aaron Donald signed that big contract, I think when you watch the game, you don't really get a sense of the, he's not really been his game-wrecking self. But I know when I go back and watch the film, he'll be kicking butt on every play. And Ndamukong Suh gets his first sack as a Ram. But, it's really the story on defense is the injuries. They lose Peters. Everyone gets a huge scare when people think it's a season, potentially season-ending Achilles injury. It turns out it's a calf. If he's able to only miss a couple weeks with that would be a huge boon. When you consider you're going to, lose one of your franchise players for the season. Certainly Talib is a big loss too. If there's one spot on the roster where they can afford to lose two stars, though, it's that secondary. Troy Hill, who was arguably the best cornerback on the team down the stretch and in the playoffs last year, he played really well. And it really was telling that the Chargers were actually kind of trying to pick on Sam Shields, and even that really wasn't effective because they only, like I said earlier, I think I counted only 33 yards of passing in over a quarter of play between that those two guys allowed when they were in there. Defense didn't really apply a ton of pressure. Shame that Dominic Easley goes out. You get some Longacre in there. But all in all, effective performance, really an impressive performance against one of the more talented teams in the NFL. I think, Rams fans probably, a lot of Rams fans don't really take the Chargers seriously, as a franchise. You have the banners today, being flown by planes, listen to Ice Cube, the Chargers don't belong in Los Angeles. All that stuff. But really, as a football team, they're one of the more talented teams in the NFL. Really, it's two of the most talented teams in the NFL going at it. And, when the Rams are able to kind of control the game in the second half, you got to like the way that, I think this is a much more impressive performance than what they put together against lesser opposition the last 2 weeks. So, all in all, just another step forward by the Rams. And, Now you got the short week with Minnesota coming off their kind of debacle at home against Buffalo. So we'll see what they look like on Thursday. But things are going thick and fast. It'll be the last game at the Coliseum for quite some time. Rams got to take advantage of it.
I totally agree with you there. And, one thing that I noticed, and you brought up a good point, this was really a game where they played better than, I mean, albeit, they give up 23 points, but I felt like they played better as a whole than they did against, lesser teams. Now, they may have dominated the lesser teams, but this was a more challenging game. This was a game where you really had to, be methodical. This is a great secondary. This is one of the better secondaries Goff will face. And, I was saying that. Cole Thompson was saying that. And, I mean, you were saying that. They have Casey Hayward. They have Trevor Williams. You have Desmond King out there, Jaleel Adai, and obviously, Derwin James. This isn't just some secondary to sleep on. And I thought, the Rams were very methodical in their approach to kind of pick apart this defense quietly. And this is the thing I keep, coming back to is, everyone's like, this is, the greatest show on Turf 2.0. It's not. The greatest show on turf, very, it was Air Coryell style offense, high octane, up tempo. With this offense, this is so much like a New England Patriots offense where you kind of chip away at the defense. With this offense, really what Sean McVay's trying to do is he takes bits and pieces out of Mike Shanahan's old, offense and kind of modernizes it. And when you have, Todd Gurley, and, you're able to do more. But really, you want to open up the pass downfield by really establishing the run early on. And that opens up the play action game, and that's how the Rams really are able to do everything. But this year, though, Joe, I've noticed that the jet sweeps, and this goes back to even before McVay, jet sweeps have been around the Rams for a while, but, they use it with everybody. Cooks, Woods, Kupp, Gurley did a fake jet sweep. I think things like that, where you're just keeping the defense, they're uneasy, they're leaning one way when they're going another. You're going to just kill teams that way. And they're not necessarily going all verts down the field. This is, they're very well coached, and they're very well disciplined. I know Woods got caught with one of the illegal picks, but pretty much the Rams have executed that on all cylinders from, the beginning of last year. They've been able to really do that legal pick move to, get a Cooper Kupp open, over the middle, or Sammy Watkins, or now, Brandon Cooks. So, obviously I just love the way that this offense continues to transform. And, this is a team, they just went from 360 yards of total offense in week 1. Week 2, they were just shy under 400, I believe, or they might have had 400. And this week they go over 520 yards. So it's definitely impressive. You can see this thing's coming together, and it's going to be nasty when, they're going up against the Seattle Seahawks, because we saw last year what they were able to do with Seattle. And, I would make the argument they are a lot less talented as they were, than they were last year. There's a good chance Earl Thomas is going to get traded, so it's going to be rough. But at the same time, I do want to bring up something, because the Rams, while they could run up the score, they could give Gurley 30 carries to pad his stats. That's not what this team is about. I saw some people, man, I feel bad for Brandon Cooks. He didn't get in the end zone. I'm sure Brandon Cooks wanted a touchdown, but Brandon Cooks is going to take a W any day over a touchdown. And, I want to give hats off to Malcolm Brown. You pointed it out pretty early on. Malcolm Brown has, as you said, has just looked a step quicker, and he's more explosive. Obviously, he's a solid running back. He always has been, but I agree with you, man. There's something different with him. He's quicker to react. I think he reads blocks way better than he used to. And he finishes runs. That's not a guy that I want to have to tackle, running upfield. And I'll be honest with you, being able to keep Brown in for an entire series and have Gurley take that much of a breather, that's going to make the Rams a lot more dangerous, just off the fact that, Gurley's going to be more rested when it comes to later on in the year. This could really bode well down the road, and regardless, you take Gurley out, Brown can get you, 10 yards if you need him to. So, and obviously we saw the pass protection last week. So it's all coming together, really. And this is all without 6th-round pick John Kelly, who people were really hyped about, and, Justin Davis, the, impressive UDFA. I mean, and Josh Reynolds really hasn't been a part of it, and they're trying to get Gerald Everett. So, I mean, there'll be a team that throws all their punches at the Rams, and that's when those guys will be used. And this is why I think the Rams are equipped to really beat any team if need be.
Well, I think this year and, looking the way he looks is just huge because, obviously when you've got, John, when you've got Kelly, you've got a rookie who, potentially, is the backup, is the next in line eventually. The key there is that, you're in a passing offense. You need someone not a big step down. Someone who you can trust and we know that Malcolm Brown, that's out of everything he does, that's one of his biggest strengths, even in previous years. But one thing he's shown this year is just, another level of explosion. He's able to get chunks and, he's just so slow through the whole last year and just, he was kind of lumbering at times. And I wonder if he was just carrying too much weight or too much muscle. I wonder if he's leaned down because he just looks so much better. And so, I think that's a huge thing because now you can trust him in the passing game. And now if you're able to put him out there and he's able to make an impact in both the pass game and the run game, you're able to give him a series in the first half and a series in the second half. Not only does it get Gurley a rest where he's able to stay closer to 100% throughout the game, you're also reducing the wear and tear both in the season and in the long term to somebody that you've invested in. Now, if you can trust Brown to play the way he did today every game, you could put a couple more years on, Todd Gurley's prime. So, I think it's a big, potentially a big change when you look at what this team had in the backfield last year, just by drafting Kelly and Brown looking like a whole different player with the ball in his hand. So, that's a big deal. I think we're still kind of waiting for Everett to blossom. We've seen almost nothing out of Josh Reynolds, although he was out there in victory formation today, so he'll be on the snap sheet there offensively tomorrow. Kelly has been he was once again inactive today, but all in all, I just think that this offense just continues to show more and more depth. It's got to be really difficult for opposing defensive coordinators to game plan against it, simply because, they can beat you in the run game, they can beat you in the pass game, they can beat you in the screen game. If you take away one receiver, they can go to another. There's not really, beyond kind of putting pressure on Goff or Goff making mistakes, there's not a real easy way to make this team play left-handed or to make them do something they don't want to do. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see the way they look on Thursday. It's like almost a shame this game against the Vikings is on a short week because you would really like to see both these teams really be able to have as much time as possible to game plan against each other. But, it is what it is, and I'm sure we're going to have, another level of NFL chess here on Thursday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The Vikings are actually going to be traveling to LA, I think on Tuesday is what Kyle told me. These people have no idea what I'm talking about right now, but so they're going to be getting there Tuesday, so they'll have a couple, well, not really a couple, more like a day to prepare. It's tough. I mean, Todd Gurley absolutely trashed Thursday Night Football. He hates it. I know a lot of people hate it, but at the end of the day, this is going to be a really good game, I think. There's not many times where you get, these two teams, this type of quality of football, and you're putting this on, a Thursday night game. I thought this was a Sunday night game written all over it, or maybe, a Monday night, but Thursday night is going to have another record broke because I think the Baker Mayfield, Bud Light Baker, and the Browns, that game actually broke the Rams record for most for the the views, the ratings for last year when the Rams played the 49ers, which was the highest rated Thursday night football game, and I think it was their history since they started it. So, which is crazy to me, but
Todd Gurley may hate Thursday night football, but certainly he performed last Thursday night. That game. That
game was unreal. 42-39, I think was the score. I mean, damn.
Niners could use Brian Hoyer right now, dude.
Yeah, no, they definitely could.
Nice game, that game, and so maybe we should. I'm gonna hijack you a little bit.
Go ahead.
Is it time to hand out the hats and T-shirts to the Rams, NFC West defending champions? Has the title already been defended when you consider where what Arizona's 0-3, the Seahawks are a mess, and the Jimmy G show has been put on a 1-year hiatus potentially?
Yeah, so how I feel is if the Rams go 8-0, they've already clinched the division. Like, I think an 8-8 team would win this division. Like, like that is the worst case scenario for the Rams. Like, I wasn't even a huge fan of the 49ers with Jimmy G. You have to realize, like, I thought that they were good, but I didn't think that they were there yet. I'm going to say this right now, and this could be taken the wrong way, but I think it's a blessing in disguise for the 49ers, assuming all...
Oh, I've said that. Good call. Go. Go. I totally agree.
Assuming all goes well, like, you know what I mean, Joe. Like, I don't want, like, Jimmy G to have any, like, serious long-term damage with his knee, but if he has a full recovery, everything goes well... This is a blessing in disguise. That's the first thing I thought, because I look at the 49ers and I think they're not there this year. They could have competed. They could have flirted with the idea of making a 6th seed and getting, destroyed by a number 1 seed or something like that in the playoffs. But I look at them as a team where in 2 years or maybe even a year, they could be really good. So what does that mean now that they don't have Jimmy G? Well, I think the over-under for me is 5 wins for them. It's going to be hard to even do that. So with that comes a great draft where you're going to have a early pick in every round. And by early pick, if you get 5 wins or less, I mean, you're looking at the top 5 probably. And,
I made the same argument today with my editor. We were talking about this, and he's a New Englander, and, obviously he's rooting. I don't know if he's rooting against Jimmy G, but he thought there. Anyway, long story short, I made the same exact argument today that if you want to look at this from a bright side, from a Niners perspective, the Niners weren't there this year. They were already beat up on the offensive line. The weapons around Garoppolo are not where they need to be in order to compete with the Rams. Look at what the Rams have surrounded Jared Goff with, and then compare that to what the Niners, who were an 0-9 team last year when they made the trade for Garoppolo. They're still that, they're not exactly that same 0-9 team, but they're pretty close to being that same 0-9 team that they were last year when they got Garoppolo. So have Garoppolo, obviously, as long as there's no complications, as long as he's still, the same player when he comes back from the ACL or whatever the knee injury was today. As long as he's the same player, they will benefit immensely in the long term. Being, like you say, a 5-11 team or a 4-12 team, if they're able to, get, be in the top 5-6 picks of that NFL draft next year at every round, and you add that talent around, some of these budding young players that they already have, Goodwin, Pettis, Breida. They've already lost the run. Think of what they've already lost their starting receiver. Their starting quarterback, their starting running back. Their best receiver just played today for the first time this year. They've lost 2 guards. They were an absolute mess already. So, just reshuffle, move on, and, try to gather talent, and we'll see what they look like next year. And really, the Niners are the only chance that the Rams had of being really pushed in this division. So as far as I'm concerned, hand out the hats and the T-shirts already. The NFC West is over. And now the rest of the year is really about playoff positioning. It's really about attacking the schedule, trying to get a bye, collecting as many wins as possible, and trying to make your position in January better than it would have been. So, I don't think the Rams have to worry about the division anymore. This thing is about putting themselves in a position to make a run in the playoffs.
I completely agree. I'm not shocked that we were on the same page there at all. We actually didn't have any communication, so this is just, I just figured this out. But, Joe, first thought that popped in my head. I was watching Alabama the other day. You know who is really talented on Alabama's offensive line? Left tackle Jonah Williams. He's phenomenal. So here's the thing. The Rams, how they went out and, got Ndamukong Suh, and he might not be there next year. Hear me out. But the Rams have a nasty defensive line. Regardless if Ndamukong Suh's there or not, they still have John Franklin Myers, Obanai Okoronkwo, Samson Ebukam. Like, they will have pieces to challenge you. So, with 34-year-old Joe Staley sitting there, now you're picking early in the draft, and there's Jonah Williams, and now you have your bookend left tackle for Jimmy G, and it's all because he tore his ACL. So, the gift that keeps on giving, I guess.
Yeah, certainly I think he had injected such, excitement in that franchise. You feel, I don't know if Rams fans feel bad for Niner fans, but certainly, Niner fans, they're going to be waking up tomorrow with an NFL hangover. They're not going to be feeling great about their team. Certainly their season is in tatters, but, I think we both make the argument that overall their team might be, better off for the long term if they have one more bad season, put some more talent around this guy. Because they need a lot more talent to be able to compete with this Rams team. So that's just my perspective. But I'm going to screenshot those texts and I'm going to send it to you, because I literally made the same exact argument to my editor today. And he was like, well, that seems optimistic. And I'm like, hey, you got to find a silver lining in some of these things.
Hey, great minds think alike, right? I'm not shocked. I do want to touch a little bit on the pass rush of the Rams. I know people were complaining they didn't get sacks. I counted 5 pressures for Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh each on the quarterback. Ndamukong Suh had a sack, which can I just say, absolutely shocked that they didn't call that pass roughing the passer.
Flag. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, if Clay Matthews were to see that film, I think he'd shake his head and say, what the heck am I doing wrong? What am I doing compared to with this guy? Certainly I'd rather, maybe I shouldn't say that out loud, but certainly Ndamukong Suh looked like he could do a lot more damage than Clay Matthews if he was, going to put his full body weight or whatever the rule is on you.
Yeah. And I have to commend Phillip Rivers, because he stood in there. Aaron Donald, Ndamukong Suh, Michael Brockers, Matt Longacre, Samson Ebukam, John Franklin Myers, they were all in his lap the whole game. And this guy's just, making some micro movements in the pocket, dodging guys. He didn't get the safety in the end zone. He did a nice job of eluding the pressure and, being able to throw that past, getting it out of the end zone. I just was really impressed with the way Phillip Rivers played, because I don't think the offensive line did a great job, and I wasn't expecting them to, because Joe Barksdale was out, former Ram. It was actually Sam Tevy, former Utah offensive tackle. He's been in the league for a year or maybe two. And then Russell Okung got hurt. I was like, oh boy, this is on. No, I was really impressed with Phillip Rivers. He had a couple drops that he suffered. He threw an absolute bomb. A perfect pass to Mike Williams, who, by the way, looks like an absolute stud and looks like he is, every reason for being a top 10 pick last season. It's great to see because for those of you who don't know, and I know this is Rams podcast, I'm getting off a little bit, but Mike Williams broke his neck. So before you go hating him because he's on the Chargers, this guy came back from a broken neck. He's dealt with multiple injuries. I'm glad he's just playing football, to be quite honest, but, he's succeeding, and, it's good for him. I think, this team has a lot of talent, and I wouldn't rule out an all-LA Super Bowl. I don't think the Chargers are quite there yet this year. I think they might be missing, one piece, but maybe, we just saw them without Joey Bosa and Jason Verrett, so maybe if they had those guys, those might be the pieces. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the Ringer picked an All-LA Super Bowl. Arash Markazi of ESPN picked an All-LA Super Bowl. It's certainly something that in the preseason people were talking about. I think if you look at the AFC, the Chargers may not be fully cooked yet. They may not be ready to compete yet, but certainly from a talent perspective, I mean, they're going to be right up there. I mean, the Patriots are now 1-2. The Jaguars just lost to the Titans. The Titans obviously are a mess. The Steelers are a mess. I mean, besides rookie quarterback Pat Mahomes, the AFC is kind of wide open. So certainly you could see a scenario in which the Chargers kind of get hot and put it together. I think as wide open as the NFC is, simply because there's so many great teams, I think the AFC is probably similarly as wide open, just because there's there's a lot of flaws there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think they have some talent at linebacker and what's his name? Perriman, and then Jatavis Brown. But I think if the Chargers had a Deion Jones linebacker, I think all bets would be off. I think they would have everything that they need with Bosa and Verrett healthy.
Yeah, they just need to be healthy, really.
Derwin James looks like a stud, though. I mean, he's a little bit of a bonehead because he he took the ball out at the 1 yard line, but
Yeah, I was at a JC game. The game I covered on Saturday, or I should say, one of the college games I covered on Saturday. Kid intercepted a ball in the end zone, took it out, and went back in the end zone with it for a safety. It was, and the coach I interviewed, actually it was, I should say, Dre Foge's alma mater. I talked to the coach that was in that commercial, the Red Bull commercial. He said in 40 years of coaching is the first time he'd ever seen it.
Oh my God!
He's ever seen, but they survived. They were up. They almost blew a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter because of that play. But they survived on a goal line stand at the end of the game simply because of it. But that's the kind of stuff when you cover community college football, you get to see some of the most unique stuff you'll ever see. Someday I'll write my memoir and it'll be filled with some of those ridiculous things you've ever heard on a football field, because I've seen.
I'm pretty sure I saw Kevin White play. He played against Hudson Valley. He was at some community college, and that's the only community college game I've ever seen.
It's pretty good. The level out here in California is, I always say it's a lot closer to D1 than it is high school. A lot of people give the 2-year level a bad rap, and there's a lot of obviously stigmas attached with, community college and JC athletes. But it's exciting, and the talent level is always off the charts. And there's always tons of Division I kids who come out of this level. Actually, there's more baseball players who make the major leagues who are 2-year products than any other level. So, and that's just the stat off the top of my head. So, a lot of talent, Just no one ever sees any of these guys play.
Well,
'Cause it's
Kansas does. They get a bunch of JUCO guys. I needed this, by the way. I needed this podcast with you. The podcast I recorded, which you guys will hear. It's an interview behind enemy lines for the Rams and Vikings, so you'll hear that. And I needed this win because Kansas lost to Baylor, and for a split second, I was actually starting to believe that Kansas might have turned it around. Oh boy!
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. They gotta, I think you gotta wait till somebody does with Kansas what Sean McVay has done with the Rams. When you have that long of, when you've been taught and you've been programmed to expect the worst out of a program, I think you really got to. They really got to prove it to you. So. Hang in there, dude. I didn't even know they played Baylor.
Yeah, no, they didn't look good at all. They blew out Nebraska. They blew out the team before that, Central Michigan, and they lost to Nichols in overtime at home, so that was kind of like tempered my expectations. Probably I had them winning one game after that, and then they won 2 straight, and then Matt Rule's Baylor team that has so much talent was just too much. And it was in Waco, so I guess I should give them the benefit of the doubt. Except they'll be playing Will Greer in West Virginia soon, and Kyler Murray in Oklahoma. So, the route is on. But regardless of all that, yeah, so we talked about the pass rush and all that. And I just want to say, because this guy has been on this podcast, he's made multiple appearances through dialogue, Corey Littleton. He is turning into an absolute stud. I mean, he is turning into a secret star, I would say. Yeah. He does a lot of the little things that don't really get noticed. I love his sideline-to-sideline ability, and that punt block, obviously that's something that'll get noticed. That was very impressive. It was a stunt. I don't know if he did it on his own. I would imagine that was drawn up by Coach Bones. I would not be surprised. Dude's a genius. So, yeah, it was a stunt play. As you can see, he's lined up in the middle, right across from the long snapper, and then he runs a stunt to the left, finding an open hole, and he was a free runner at the punter. And I got to tell you right now, Joe, if I was ever in that position, I mean, I would actually feel like I was about to die. Because just think about this. Joe Theismann's leg was just him standing straight up. Can you imagine being a punter, being that vulnerable and having your leg out like that? It just, I felt bad for him. I was worried for him.
Well, it's actually a better situation with that because it's in the air. It's free. It can move. Joe Theismann, it's trapped underneath him. It's on the ground. A lot of times you get those injuries because your cleats are stuck in the turf But, I was part of the scrum that talked to Littleton after the game, and Littleton said that it was about as wide open a punt block as, he's ever seen. It was, something that Coach Bones had drawn up. It was a play called, and it worked about as well as, anything that they've done. This guy has blocked, 3 punts in 2 years now? And it's just been absolutely unbelievable, and you got to love. It's one thing to do it as when you're the special teams ace, when you're a backup, but to be one of the most important players on that defense and continue to make the plays he makes on special teams, that's when you've got a really special player. That's one of the most important players on your team. And for a guy who was a UDFA, who had to sit out his rookie year until training camp because he had to graduate from Washington first, the guy's just been absolutely unbelievable, huge part of this team, and quickly becoming a key leader in that locker room.
It says a lot when the team that had the first overall pick ends up having a rookie of the year that's a UDFA. That says a lot about the UDFA. And that was the Corey Littleton was the Rams rookie of the year. I haven't forgotten about that. And in a class again, you had the number 1 overall pick. I mean, that says a lot. You could say what you want about Goff struggling and all that, but he really had a good rookie year, and he has worked his way up. He's very similar to the same path that Ronnie McLeod was on. Hopefully he is around longer. But it's been pretty awesome seeing him. He had 10 tackles. I know he had a pass batted down, and then he had a punt block. So he had a day. And it was funny because I remembered Ian Eagle and Dan Fouts, the guys who had the call on this. They called the Rams and Jaguars game, and it was the same spot. The Rams blocked the punt against the Jaguars, and it was Corey Littleton. And one of them made a comment about that. And they're like, well, it's Corey Littleton blocking a punt again, something we have seen before. I just thought it was kind of funny. I mean, they call, all these different games. Ian Eagle calls, the tournament, the NCAA tournament. I mean, it's just crazy that they remembered that.
Yeah, I think it was Malcolm Brown who recovered that touchdown last year in Jacksonville, and today it was Blake Countess getting his first NFL touchdown. So, congrats to Blake! What a big play, and just another part of. I think what the stat after the game was, the Rams are now one of two teams in the NFL who have scored in all three phases, joining the New York Jets. So. I guess the Jets and Rams do have one thing in common.
Yeah, no, they do. You mentioned Troy Hill earlier playing, very solid football, and I really was impressed with Sam Shields as well. I thought, the way the Rams responded to that injury, the first injury with Peters, to see Talib, who clearly has not been the number one corner and has not been on an island since, the days of the Patriots, or maybe even further back, like you're looking at Tampa Bay. I mean, when he got to Denver, it was maybe when he first got to Denver. But, I mean, Chris Harris Jr., Bradley Roby, and then with the Patriots, didn't he play with Darrelle Revis? I would say, I mean, he played with Darrelle Revis with Tampa Bay as well, but I would say probably Tampa Bay is what you're looking at. So, yeah, this is the first time in a while where, Talib was the guy, and I thought he did a nice job. He really made Keenan Allen just kind of freeze on that trick play. They probably were like, well, if the Browns can do it, we can do it. And, man, Keenan Allen just, I guess he heard footsteps, and then, or maybe, he just was like petrified. I mean, you saw it. He didn't throw the ball. He just, I don't know. It was one of those weird plays where, I don't think he had a guy open, but you would have expected him to at least throw or run it. But, Talib was on the coverage there. And then when Talib goes down, it's up to Hill, it's up to Shields, it's up to Roby Coleman. And 5'7" Roby Coleman, of course, is covering 6'4" Tyrell Williams downfield, which I thought was very impressive. And I just thought, as tough as it's going to be next week, or, this upcoming week, with the Vikings. Because, everyone's going to think about last year, oh, here we go again, it's deja vu, except it's, before the game starts, the Rams are without their two starting corners. I don't think it's going to be the same thing. I think, like you said, they just have more depth now. And the Sam Shields signing makes the Rams look genius because, I mean, they would look even smarter if they had Shields and Kayvon. But, I think the Sam Shields signing looks genius now, especially with those two injuries. And, Joe, I don't know how serious they'll be. They are getting second opinions. I think, like I said, I think Talib might actually end up being the more serious one, which is really shocking. I'm hoping he doesn't have a high ankle sprain. And, with Marcus Peters, there were some people like, oh, it's just a calf strain. Well, the thing with calf strains is there's two grades. There's one where it's a 7 to 10 day thing and then you're good. And there's one where it's kind of serious. It's like 3 to 6 weeks. So I don't think, regardless of what comes back, the best news possible, the Rams are not having those guys for Thursday.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really, to me, it's such a huge piece of news. I mean, if you lose Marcus Peters to an Achilles injury, I mean, that is a potential, not just season-ending injury. That's a potential, in the past, those type of things have been, career-changing. And somebody who is an elite, quick athlete, somebody who's made as many plays in the secondary as anybody else in football during his career. I mean, if it's just, you would take a 6-week calf injury, a 2-month calf injury. The bottom line is you're going to get him back this year. He's not done for the year, and he's not affected long term if it's just a calf pull. So that is just a huge piece of news. I think people were really worried about that, and then in terms of and the thing about it is, again, this is the one spot on this team where they can handle it. If they lost 2 of their top receivers, that would be a huge blow. You'd have to go, you'd have to have Reynolds, you'd have to get somebody off the practice squad or off the street. If you lose both your tackles, think of the sort of impact that would have. Losing 2 corners normally there's probably 30, 31 teams in the NFL that couldn't absorb that sort of issue. This team is probably more well equipped to handle this sort of situation than any team in the league, and certainly it's not going to be easy. They're probably going to give up more points on Thursday than they would have, but with this offense, with this defensive coordinator, with this secondary coach, you feel confident that they're going to be able to figure it out and handle it. I mean, think of that last Thursday night game when last year when Troy Hill was had to go out there and play in the middle of the game, and he makes the game the game deciding breakup on the 2-point conversion. So and obviously Sam Shields has been excellent since he's become a Ram, so, and former Pro Bowl player. So certainly the Rams are in good shape. Considering again, I don't think there's a team in the NFL that could handle those sorts of injuries in the medium term if they do lose both of these guys for a month or so or a couple weeks.
Yeah, I see. Like, to me, the way this offense is rolling, it's a little troublesome. Last year the Vikings just had a great game plan. Mike Zimmer put together just an unbelievable game plan. They were very physical, and they just beat the Rams. I mean, they absolutely beat them down last year, in Minnesota. It did come down to little things like, the Cooper Kupp fumble at the goal line. That could have made it a completely different game. The Rams actually got up on the board. I believe they got up on the board first. It was going to be 14-0, I believe, and then after that it was all Vikings. And, the Vikings have, like, a scary defense. I mean, they just added more to it. Nothing like getting, somebody like George Iloka, who already has his connections with Mike Zimmer from Cincinnati, but, they grab him at the end of preseason. Like, you don't get players like that just like, oh, yeah, we'll just, snag you. They already have Anderson Dejo and the best safety, in my opinion, in the entire league in Harrison Smith. I mean, somebody that can play in the box, he can roam, tons of versatility. He definitely can blitz as well. So he's going to be a problem. But I just think, Joe, the way this thing went today, I just think no matter what happens, whether the Rams have to leave Peters or not in this game, and they won't, but I'm saying regardless of if they did or not, this offense is getting better. This team is growing. You can see that Sean McVay has morphed this team into something that is now his. I mean, he has completely transformed this team. Jared Goff, here's a cool stat. JB Long posted this. You probably saw it on Twitter. First 25 career starts, including postseason, for Jared Goff and Tom Brady. Tom Brady, 5,513 yards passing, 38 total touchdowns, and 22 interceptions. Jared Goff, 5,739 yards passing, 39 total touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. So, not bad for a system quarterback, right? But
That's what McVay said after the game. All this system quarterbacks. We're gonna have to have a system quarterback podcast. It's just silly nonsense. Did you see my tweet to Vinny today?
Yes, I did.
Was like, am I right, Vinny? Yeah. I mean, just the straw men that have been built, at the Rams facility this week could populate, every field in Camarillo. For people outside Ventura County is a really big agrarian place. So, it's ridiculous. But, Jared Goff is not a system quarterback. That was never what all that stuff was about. And the bottom line is, wouldn't you want a quarterback who's going to flourish in a system? I mean, the bottom line is it doesn't matter whether or not Jared Goff would flourish anywhere else. The only thing that matters is that he's flourishing in LA with his coach, with this system. That's the only thing that matters is where, who he is, where he is in this moment, surrounded by the talent he's got. And, he can continue to improve. And he's continuing to be, to kick butt. I mean, what is he? Threw for 354 today. Second straight week he threw for 354. Just one off his career record. And I think the stat that I saw was he's already fourth in Rams history, the amount of 300-yard passing games. He's only in his third year. He's already tied with Sam Bradford. Look at all the, everything that they invested in the Sam Bradford.
Wait a minute, he threw for the same exact yards back-to-back days. That's insane.
Back-to-back weeks. And it's both of them were 1 yard away from his career high. So he was one completion away on both of those occasions. It's just stats. It doesn't matter. What matters is they were winning by 2 scores almost the entire second half, and your unbelievable prediction of the 3 receivers having 3,000-yard seasons is like, we're going to have to do the math. I think they're on pace to do it, which would be absolutely – it's so amazing that I laughed at you when you predicted it. And I still think it would be ridiculous if they did it, but – I guess you can't really, bet against them at this point. I mean, they've been really good, and they're just getting going with this group. I mean, now you really see what McVay, why they invested so much in Brandon Cooks, and remember how everyone was down when they invested in Robert Woods. I mean, no one understood.
I did.
Signing, and that
was my guy.
He's been incredible. Well, okay, besides you. I mean, that was ridiculous. And obviously Cooper Kupp has been, the play he made today, ripping himself, the clutches of a opposing defensive back. And, those 3 guys have been everything that you hyped them up to be, buddy. We'll see if they get there. I'm going to have to figure out, we're going to have to figure out like a bet or something. I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to get you if that ridiculousness comes true. Like what you will earned by making such a outlandish, ridiculous call that when you first brought it up on the podcast, I laughed at you. That's how ridiculous it was. And I think I'm gonna have to figure out like some funny, some sort of, I don't know, maybe you're, I don't know. We'll figure out what you will have earned, because I think a call that incredible is going to need some sort of payoff, rather than just being right.
Yeah, no, the funny thing is, if they do that, how obnoxious would that offense be? Like, why? You're just obnoxious. Like, really? Like you,
That's a good word for it. Totally obnoxious.
Goff, you threw 1,000 yards to 3 receivers, and Todd Gurley ran for 1,000, and he received for 700. Like, really?
That's what I said when you predicted it. That's what I said. I said you got to be out of your mind. Because Todd Gurley is going to be close to 1,000 too. He's going to be up over 4, and it will have meant that we'll have been waiting all year for Higbee and Everett and Reynolds to do something, and they're going to concentrate just on those 4 guys. But I guess we haven't mentioned it yet. We got to give it up to Tyler Higbee today, making a big play, catching I think it was a third down, the 21-yard ball down the right sideline that set up a score. One of the plays of the day. So I think if you get one play like that out of Tyler Higbee, per game, I think you would take that at this point his third year. If you can get one, kind of series extending play out of Tyler Higbee, I think that's all you really need out of, and continuing to block well in the running game. I think that's what you're looking for, and so I think good job, Tyler Higbee. You and your and bleach blonde hair can enjoy your night tonight because you've contributed.
And I gotta say, I think Tyler definitely looks different. Like there's more confidence. His body control on the sideline was unreal. I just, this is somebody that people were dubbing Baby Gronk. And I have to imagine if push comes to shove, like how I view the Vikings game is they're not going to beat the Rams if they beat them with the receivers. No, that's too obvious. It's going to be Kyle Rudolph. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be Kyle Rudolph because the Rams couldn't stop Jared Cook. They did let Antonio Gates get out in space a little bit. I mean, he wasn't like, a backbreaker. But I mean, they've had issues defending tight ends. And I think somebody like Kyle Rudolph could be a significant X factor in that game. I said, coming into this game, we're just going to have like a weekly X factor. But coming into this game, I said Austin Eckler. I mean, and he looked it. If the Chargers kept going with Austin Eckler, yeah, I think they would have, gotten closer to that margin. They probably would have hurt my my bet on the Rams with the 7-point favorite or whatever, 6-point favorite. So, yeah, I think, the way Tyler Higbee is that if the Rams get stopped, like all the receivers just get shut down, I feel like their X factor can be Tyler Higbee. I don't know if Gerald Everett is going to be ready this year. I don't know, it might take him till year 3 like Higbee. It's an offense that really they can just do their thing, but they have fallback options. They know if this isn't working, we do have a Josh Reynolds, we do have a Tyler Higbee, a Gerald Everett, we have a John Kelly, we have a Malcolm Brown. They're all different pieces on this offense that, maybe the casual fan of the NFL doesn't know who they are, but that's their loss, and that's going to be their issue when, Tyler Higbee's catching game-winning touchdowns, if it, in a close game. Like, I would look at that Eagles game, the Sunday Night Football game, way in advance, like towards the end of the year. That's a game where, that could be a really close game, and, the Eagles are doing a nice job of shutting down the Rams receivers. Higbee comes in and is able to make a couple nice plays and end up winning that football game. Like, I could see that. Like, that's how I envision Tyler Higbee. He's somebody he could catch for over 100 yards in a game if they need him to. Problem is, they don't need him to right now. Once they need him to, I believe he's going to be turned loose. That's what I believe about Tyler Higbee. I'm thinking, another 500-yard, maybe 600-yard season, but it doesn't really matter. You can't really quantify his value because he's the next fallback option. And, if there's an injury, that's even, more to say. So that's how I view that. I think you were right to name him. I was definitely, every time I see Tyler Higbee, I just can hear Joe Curley saying, put up or shut up.
Yeah, and he put up. I mean, that's all I need out of Tyler Higbee is one play in the passing game a night. No drops. The ball comes your way in the red zone, catch the ball, and we'll build on it from there. All in all, really tough to pick out. I'm gonna go watch the film when it comes out tomorrow, and we'll see if there's any nitpicks that we can come up with out of this performance. But when you're beating a team that's got as much talent as the Los Angeles Chargers, you got to be happy to be be a Los Angeles Ram fan, to be 3-0, to be the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl, to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and you've got your system quarterback. If the system is built to win games, because that's all that matters. And all in all, things have been pretty fun for Rams fans in the first 3 weeks of the 2018 NFL season. We'll see what happens on Thursday night. One of the biggest games on the calendar this year in the NFL, and it'll be the last. I think after this game on Thursday, Rams only have one game at the Coliseum until mid-November. So, absolutely huge game before the Rams really spend the next 2 months on the road.
It's a really big game for the Rams. I know people get caught in that trap where, well, there's no way the Vikings are going to lose 2 straight, or there's no way the Vikings are going to lose after they lost to the Bills at home. They're going to be mad. Well, it's not like the Rams like it. Joe, I can't stand that way of thinking. Like, I really can't. Like, today, I heard someone say, there's no way. I don't know if it's NFL Network or something, but I heard it. There's no way the Houston Texans lose 3 straight. And then the Giants proved them otherwise. And I'm pretty sure that game was in Houston. So, there's no, this can't happen. The Patriots just lost 2 straight. Like, the Patriots. Like, it's any given Sunday. And this week, it's going to be any given Thursday. So, especially Thursday, we've seen crazier things happen. It's on a short week. We saw the Rams go toe-to-toe with the 49ers. We saw that game really looked like that was going to be... Joe, I mean, I don't know how much you remember of that game, but that was supposed to be a blowout. The Rams started off, like, dominating, and then there were some, the turnover on the kickoff by Farrell Cooper, and I think there was an interception, maybe a fumble. Like, the game got really close, and then it ended up being, like, down to the wire in a game that really the Rams probably could have just, chewed the clock. I mean, they were up by quite a bit, and then, the 49ers came storming back. That is the type of environment you get on Thursday night, short week game. Now, that was on the road. So...
that was an interesting game. One thing I should probably point out is it was a scene that veteran NFL reporters have never seen before in the Rams locker room after the game. Coach McVay mentioning on the podium that the preparation for Minnesota begins immediately. You had Ted Rath. Let me bring you in the locker room a little bit. So I'm interviewing Troy Hill after his game. And we press pause on it for a second so that Ted Rath can come in. He's got a list of all the players on there and exactly what they're, what they need to do before they can leave in order to recover and treat their body. There was, I think we counted, me and Jared Bell of USA Today, we were counting. He had said, it's somebody who's been in a lot more NFL locker rooms than me. He said he had never seen something like this before. The Rams brought in 12 massage tables put them up in the middle of the locker room where therapists were massaging every single Rams player. After they got their massages, they were laying down in the middle of you had to be careful not to step on a Ram because they were laying down to get all the lactic buildup out of their legs. They on the floor and on mats, and there's the room next door. They had those, I don't know what they call them. They got those machines where they put the big sleeves on your legs, and it works out all the lactic acid from your legs. So on the short turnaround, every single member of that team was already getting ready for Thursday night. The moment this game ended today, I'm sure Coach McVay right now as we speak on Sunday night is already breaking down film, already working towards the game plan. I'm sure a lot of the game plan is already kind of decided. I bet you they've already been working on this thing ahead of time. And so when you've only got 4 days, I don't think we're allowed to see practice this week. I think reporters, we get to talk to McVay tomorrow. We're going to have availability on Tuesday. But besides that, I don't think we have. It's the rare week where we don't have availability to see practice because there's just no time for it. I don't know how much they're even going to practice. I bet you Andrew Whitworth and John Sullivan probably won't practice this week. They'll probably just recover and get ready for Thursday, and everything will be mental reps. That would be my guess. But, certainly a very different scenario probably. And that is why I thought, Thursday night football is a little more ragged and not as entertaining or, a little more crazy and different than Sunday football, simply because there's just not as much time to prepare for it, and you're asking the human body to do things that they probably can't do. So this team, the depth of this team will be challenged. You're going up against a team that's coming off of an embarrassing defeat that's going to be, going to hold nothing back. And really, it's a huge pivotal game when you talk about these two teams could be, this game could be the tiebreaker for a potential bye in the NFC playoffs. So absolutely, huge day on Thursday, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I definitely am as well. We're going to wrap this thing up a little bit, but I do want to ask you one question, Joe. If you were the head coach, say you're Sean McVay for a day, and you have to decide how you're preparing for the Thursday game, how are you going about this? Because, like, for me, I would actually skip the practice, and I would go through I would do a walkthrough, and that's it. I would do film work. I would do a lot of classroom stuff, but I would skip the practice. I would, focus on, getting everybody prepared and recovered, and then going through a walkthrough on Wednesday. How would you do that?
Well, the problem is your normal game week is 7 days, and so what you're doing, or 6 days, what you're doing when you're playing on Thursday is you're reducing your game week by 3 days. So you're taking out the player's day off, you're taking out the 2 practice days. So really you're going, you've got their walkthrough day will be or their prep day, whatever your normal Saturday would be, is going to be Wednesday. And then, you're going to they need a day to game plan. So that's tomorrow. So really your only day to potentially practice would be Tuesday. And there's just no reason to do that when the players won't have had, their day off. They won't have had their time to recover. So, physically they probably can't do it. And, really if you do it, you're just putting those bodies at risk for injury. So, really it's just important to have mental reps. It's more important to have the game plan in place. And, really I think for this week, if I was a coach, the number one most important thing I would do is anybody that's banged up, I would consider deactivating. I would consider using all the depth at my disposal. So I think a lot of those guys who get deactivated on Sunday, I would think about activating and playing. And especially on, if any of them are capable, if you can trust any of them. So, obviously the roster construction kind of interferes with some of that, but, I would consider using depth in any way I could just to kind of spread out that stress level on the roster. Because the worst thing you can do is go out. Was this the day that was Sullivan injured in the San Francisco game last year? I think he was. I think he definitely suffered some injury in that Niners game on Thursday night. So we'll see what.
I think Watkins got hurt too. That was the concussion game.
Yeah, that's right. So Watkins got hurt too, and he really wasn't the same for the next month. So, I think anywhere I could, I would play a lot of Everett this week. I would play a lot of Reynolds this week. I would try to get Noteboom involved. Somebody said, I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that Whitworth left the game and Noteboom was out there the last
I did
series?
not see that.
But then again, a lot of people were Reynolds. Somebody told me that in the play-by-play there was a mention of a Whitworth injury, and Whitworth was not mentioned when McVay went. And I think he was fine. Whitworth talked after the game, so I don't think he was actually hurt. Normally, if he was hurt, he wouldn't have spoken after the game. So I think that. But anyway, that was something that somebody had texted me. There was something in the play-by-play about Whitworth leaving the game with an injury, and then Noteboom was out there for the kneel down. But then again, so wasn't Reynolds. So wasn't a lot of the reserves, for that play with Goff. So anyway, we'll try to figure that out tomorrow.
Yeah, we definitely we'll figure out everything. It's all going to come pretty quickly, and which is a good thing, I guess. Playing on Thursday, it'll be fun. Don't have to wait as long. I'm looking forward to it. I think right now, as it looks, the Rams are the best team in the league. We'll see tomorrow with the how that tilt between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Pittsburgh Steelers goes. I actually think the Buccaneers are going to win that game, and that would be the Rams and Buccaneers still 3-0. Be the only ones in the NFC, and they would be, I believe, what is it, two of four that are remaining. I think it's just the Chiefs and the Dolphins that are undefeated in the AFC. So it would be then there were four. So it would be the final four there. And then, if the Rams beat the Vikings, they're looking at a kind of an easier matchup with the Seattle Seahawks. So, we'll see. But Joe, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was episode 123 of the Downtown Rams podcast. For Jake Ellenbogen, he is Joe Curley, and we'll be back soon. So take care, guys, and talk to you soon. Later. Can't get enough of Downtown Rams? We're on downtownrams.com. Plenty of articles, news, analysis, and of course, we have a brand new podcast called the Ramblin' On Podcast, which is hosted by two of our writers, Matt Herrera and Brian Giovanu. To check it out, visit Spreaker.com/downtownrams or check out downtownrams.com.